Going back to the 1920s when Nellie Lutcher and the Chitlin Circuit reigned supreme, music has always been a driving force in Southwest Louisiana. Carolyn Woosley started the Music Museum of Southwest Louisiana, an organization that preserves musical history. She explains, to understand the culture surrounding the sound coming out of this corner of the state, you have to look at what was happening back then. Radio became king, introducing artists to faraway sounds they never heard before. Although local radio stations were crucial, airwaves weren't the only vehicle bringing new styles to town.
You also had people crisscrossing between New Orleans, and then they would get gigs, like in Houston or Shreveport. They go to Dallas, and they would stop over in Lake Charles overnight to play.
Southwest Louisiana, Woosley describes as a crossroads.
There's no better place to be. There is no reason to apologize for being at a crossroads, because that's where the different influences and cultures cross.
Creating mixtures of styles, like when Cajun and Western swing came together to form one of the longest performing musical groups of all time, the Hackberry Ramblers. This wasn't just a result of styles passing through. There were new people settling down in the area, tapping into the famous oil and gas industry, like Eddie Schuler. The producers settled down in the area and started up Gold Band Records, a label producing huge names like the Ramblers, Irie LeJeune, Phil Phillips, and a 13-year-old girl named Dolly Parton.
She sounds okay. What about it? He said, would you record her? I said, sure, I'd record her.
Many recording studios and record labels began to pop up in this corner of the Bayou State, supporting new emerging genres and styles like la-la, Cajun, swamp pop, and zydeco, just to name a few.
These were very fertile times for creativity.
Creating a vibrant and prolific live music scene along minor highways like Broad Street. Woosley suspects a political and social explanation for the thriving juke joint population. Louisiana had some pretty loose rules.
When I was growing up in the 60s, we would go out to the Green Frog and all there, and we saw the most amazing music you can't even believe. And we were young, but no one asked for your ID.
Texas didn't allow gambling, and the clubs all closed early. The drinking age was also 21, while here in Louisiana, it was a different story.
Typically speaking, when we talked to people from Texas and asked them what they were going to do over the weekend, they were coming across the river. Going across the river was a big thing back then.
Members of Louisiana Express, a swamp pop band that's been together around 40 years, reminisce on their experiences growing up in this area during the height of music culture.
It wasn't unusual back then to play a job and leave there and then go play somewhere else on the same evening. So it was almost one of those things where it was like competition. It was nothing to have 1,200 people at a band job.
A few of the members, like lead singer Chris Flowers, aren't from Louisiana, but had to have a taste of the unique sounds coming from the swamp.
I was absolutely blown away by the talented musicians came out of the woods. Where did these people come from?
There were many areas with an abundance of clubs, but Broad Street was the place to be. Venues like the Bamboo Club dominated the scene, bringing people like Little Richard. See, he's billed with his Royal Show? Yeah, that's a young Jimi Hendrix on guitar. But then a major shift. The interstate was born, and while it was great for economics, it sparked a major change in the nightlife overnight. People were no longer traveling along the minor highways to get into Texas. This was also the time of integration, and a lot of social upheaval caused by many new movements and the Vietnam War. New economic factors and political realities changed everything. Cue the Civic Center and the birth of bigger venues. Chicago, Conway Twitty, and even the King himself. Lake Charles was a stop for some of the biggest names in music.
He drew the largest number of people, but it was two shows that he played. He played, two sellout crowds. I brought the largest single event ever booked at the Civic Center, and that was Rick Springfield in 1985 or 86. We had 9,500 people.
Al Harris, a musician traveling around with Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn, was in Lake Charles to play Contraband Days in the mid-'80s, back when the popular festival drew in big performers. And he decided to take an offer to become the director of the Civic Center.
Whoever was popular, we had them down here.
Harris says there were concerts pretty much every weekend, and because of all of his contacts in Nashville, they were big ones, much different from the Civic Center we know today. The beat may have changed, but the music remains. At your service, Caitlin Russ, KPLC 7 News.